time for Fall River.
The Dan York State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
You know, municipal elections are, they come when they come and they result the way they result, and not too much fanfare occurs unless it's, a major city with a major controversy. And in this particular case, Fall River has to be considered a major city around here, and the controversy that it's had is probably an opportunity. You could see that it's been a real Achilles heel for the city to have Jazel Correa indicted on not one but two packages of criminal charges. He's on his way out, and as he goes out, he's still just kind of doing the wrong thing, and it's bothersome, I'm sure, to a lot of the good citizens in Fall River. The opportunity is, when you've had this much attention, it's a chance to turn it around, and the new mayor-elect is here to talk about his victory and his perspective on that and more in just a few minutes. Stay with us. Nice to have you in. Thanks very much for tuning in on this really weird weather Tuesday. I mean, I went out to a press conference at 9 o'clock this morning and it was 60 degrees. I left, it was 48, and I came in the office, it was 38. It's you're probably watching this at 15 degrees. It's New England. There's something about global warming having an effect. Let's not get into it. Anyway, speaking of the weather, it's going to get stormy in Washington as of tomorrow. Headlines here, it's going to be live coverage, wall to wall. Here's the network's take.
History will be made in this room Wednesday as the House launches the first public impeachment hearings examining President Trump's dealings with Ukraine. House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff released this letter saying the process will be fair to the president, the committee members, and the witnesses. Above all, these hearings are intended to bring the facts to light for the American people. CBS News has obtained an 18-page memo outlining Republican strategy for defending President Trump. They will argue President Trump did not lay out any conditions when he asked Ukraine's president to launch political investigations. Both presidents have said there was no pressure to conduct the investigations. Ukraine wasn't even aware that U.S. military aid was being withheld at the time of the phone call, and U.S. military aid was released anyway, even without Ukraine conducting the investigations.
The Republicans have never been so united, and I think the people of our country have never been so united.
A new CBS News poll shows Americans are actually divided about their views on impeachment. 43% surveyed say President Trump should be impeached over the Ukraine controversy. 40% say he should not, and 17% think it's too soon to say. 73% of those who have an opinion say they've made up their mind.
For now, the House is simply gathering relevant evidence about what the president did.
Neither side fares well in the new poll. 52% of those surveyed say they do not think congressional Democrats are handling the inquiry well, and 56% say President Trump isn't handling it well either.
Oh, what a mess, right? Here's the thing. If the Democrats were smart, they would take that 18-page memo and the talking points that CBS News was able to lay out and build their case against each one, because each one of those are refutable. Whether they handle this thing well is a complete guess, right? If it's a circus, and if it's 5 minutes of this and 5 minutes of that and back and forth, and you keep track, and it becomes kind of a partisan zoo, and they didn't get a handle on it, and it doesn't feel differently than most procedures in Congress for the American public, it'll fall flat on its face. Tomorrow is an opening day for this, and maybe the most pivotal. We'll see. In the meantime, coming home here for a second in Rhode Island, we've got a dangling problem for municipal leaders. Headline here, the only alternative for the League of Cities and Towns here in Rhode Island to protest this legislation for perpetual municipal contracts that was passed by the legislature last year is to sue now. It's a short-run problem with a long-term solution, meaning I don't see how the courts are going to react to this very quickly, and the legislature is completely nonchalant about it. Steph Machado was live in North Providence, where Mayor Charlie Lombardi hosted fellow municipal leaders on this particular announcement, where Angel Deveris, the lead counsel and former mayor of Providence, argued some of the facts.
16 towns and cities who are filing this lawsuit say it's all about protecting the taxpayers. They announced the lawsuit this morning at North Providence City Hall. They are suing House Speaker Nicholas Mattiello, Senate President Dominic Ruggiero, and Governor Gina Raimondo over the law which passed earlier this year, allowing union contracts for teachers and municipal employees to continue after they expire until a new deal is reached. Even though this was already the practice in many cities and towns, mayors and town managers say making it mandatory hinders their ability to run their own cities.
As Governor Raimondo and the G8 literally handcuffed us with lifetime contracts. And as we all know, it makes it astronomically harder to get concessions during difficult financial times.
I'm not surprised. The mayors were opposed to the bill when the legislature passed it. Obviously, we don't agree with that position. It's a pretty narrow bill, and we're prepared to defend it.
And Mattiello and Ruggiero sent a joint statement saying this law protects wages and benefits for workers. They believe it will withstand this legal challenge from the towns and cities.
So, this is going to be interesting. The litigation is going to take a while. The option is to go in and ask for some kind of cease and desist for the law to actually be in place, and I doubt that that's going to happen. The Senate President and the House Speaker came out today in full defense of the litigation. I should say the legislation, not the litigation, but the legislation. And, it's kind of an irresistible force, immovable object. The courts step in and provide a constructive mediation to this? I'm not sure. But just know what the problem is. If you've got a deal with the municipal union, everything that is in place stays in place. The only thing that you can really do is add to it. Add to it in terms of compensation, add to it. The pull of the plug is you lay people off. And that's just a question that nobody wants to respond to on a municipal level. No leader wants to be in a position to be able to say, our only alternative to you agreeing to new terms of a contract is a layoff. It's not a good bill, but I think the ship has kind of sailed on it. In the meantime, let's get to our guest of the day. Headline here, this is like a walk in a park. This is picking cherries. This was easy, huh?
No,
Piece of cake?
No. It's not easy.
Congratulations.
No, thank you, Dan.
Paul
Thank you.
Coogan,
Thank
the
you.
mayor-elect of the city of Fall River. By the way, not for nothing, you don't have this burden in Massachusetts that the Rhode Island mayors do.
I don't believe we do. No, I don't think so. I think there's a give and take the whole way through, but I'll check on it after seeing that piece.
Yeah, well, usually Massachusetts is leading the league in common sense, not all the time when it comes to the comparisons between both states, but you'll have plenty of contracts that you're going to have to negotiate, and the problem these Rhode Island mayors and administrators have is that there's no room to say, hey, listen, in tougher times we're going to lessen maybe your pension take,
right,
or we may have to keep a couple of percentage points in salary and compensation. I mean, nobody wants to do that, but you want to have the flexibility in case there's problems.
No, I've been involved with a bunch of contracts in education. They come up every 2 or 3 years, whatever it is, but I never heard of this, so we'll find out.
All right, we'll see. How you feeling?
Good, very good. Everything's busy.
Exhausting process?
It's very exhausting. It keeps you going all the way and right to the end, and then at 8 o'clock, it's like that the movie with Robert Redford, The Candidate. What do I do now? Because the campaign's over, and you got to transition into election, and from the election, and you really get worn out.
Well, we spoke on the phone last week, and it seemed to me that you were already kind of immersed in a walk through City Hall, trying to figure out, what's up, what's down. It's not like the place is unfamiliar territory to you.
No, we were in there all day today. Number of meetings. We had a meeting with all the department heads. I told every one of them I want them to give me 5 things their departments are doing well, and 5 things they may need help with or some support on. And I said, if you give me those things, it gives me something to build on, and I know what to talk about when I'm out and about for positives.
Give me a thought on what I said at the top of the show, which is that the cloud that's been hanging over the city obviously a burden, and it's obviously reflected in the monster turnout for you,
Right.
versus Jason Correa, who kind of pulled out but hung on and was playing around with writing candidate strategies, and Ms. Viveros, the city administrator, threw in a write-in candidacy. What did I bet her, by the way? I bet her something. Huh? No. I bet her, Anita, on the. Yeah, she was saying she could win. I said the sticker campaigns don't win in general.
Right,
If you were
no.
running a sticker campaign, it'd be very hard to
Difficult.
win. You got to get on the ballot. You have to be known to be on the ballot. But despite all the little shenanigans, it could be a great opportunity, because at least the bad news about Fall River has kept Fall River in the headlines. Now, your goal, I think, is what? Is to flip,
The city.
take the notoriety and move in a different direction.
Correct.
Is that part of your thought
That
process?
is definitely part of our thought process. We've already been into conversations with the governor's office, some of our federal delegation. They've all called. They all want to help. They all want to get involved in Fall River, and we're going to ask them for help, and we're going to rebuild the city both emotionally, physically, and mentally.
Do you feel like the city is more high profile because of the controversies?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's because of all the negatives that are out there, and people just can't believe it, and we're going to have to work our way through it, and that's what we're doing right now. We're starting to rebuild.
All right, we'll talk about the steps in getting ready to run Fall River when we come back. Stay with us. Reminding you of the very, I wouldn't say it was an exciting election, but it was a high-profile one. Eyewitness News reported.
I think it was a big embarrassment for the whole city.
Just about anyone in Fall River
I think we need some stability, and the government
feels one way or another about its political history.
I have a long track record in this city. I will never get caught up in any kind of shenanigans like that.
To understand that promise from Mayor-elect Coogan, you have to understand where the city's been. 8 people serving as mayor in the last 12 years. Turnover, many voters feel, is causing distraction and delays from getting more done. It all started in 2007 when veteran Mayor Edward Lambert left office a few months early. His successors include Robert Correa, defeated after one term. Will Flanagan, recalled from office in 2014. There was Sam Sutter, who lasted less than a year, and now Jason Correa, forced out by criminal charges, a revolving door of mayors that may not be cranking out results.
It has much bigger implications than just the political drama we see. That means you can't have long-term planning. You can't necessarily coordinate with other communities. It's had a lot of effects, I think, on Fall River, and I think voters are just exhausted by it.
In a defiant decision, voters wanting a new chapter, one they hope to write for a while.
It's been very discouraging, the last few years, and I'd love to see a change.
It's interesting. People really don't pay a lot of attention to their leadership when things are going well. It's kind of like a baseball umpire, right, or a basketball referee. But when things are not going well, those who are elected are very, very high profile. Right. You've got this juxtaposition where you're trying to turn a city from its notoriety, not so good, into. But I think there's two different things. I think the city is coming. Its politics are not so good.
Right.
You got to flip the politics to quiet, and the city to good.
Correct.
Right.
That's what we're trying to do. If we can get people to settle down, you kept hearing those people in the piece talk about stability and working together, and we're already doing that. We're meeting with the acting mayor, Cliff Pond. He's also the head of the city council. He and I have regular meetings. And we're trying to find ways to just settle everybody down and know that government is going to be in the background but functioning well.
Jason Correa pulled quite the stunt. You and I talked about it before the election. He said he was going to leave City Hall, retain his salary though through the balance of the year. I had suggested that the City Council call an emergency meeting and yank that. Clearly they didn't pay any attention. It's more principle, I think, than cash flow, but quite the stunt anyway.
Well, it was quite the stunt. I mean, when the council was voting to remove him, he fought them like tooth and nail. And then when he voluntarily, because that would have been the reason to pull his salary. They had to vote, you're out, was cutting you off. But then when he did it on his own, under the same provisions they tried to move him out on, he said, I'm keeping my salary. And they just let him go. I think at that point, they are paying him to leave. They didn't want him there any longer.
Ted Nesi in that package talked about continuity. Continuity is important, but your charter doesn't help. 2-year mayoral terms.
Yeah. New Bedford just switched to 4 years. I think that's probably better, but I'm not getting into that fight. I'm worried about the 2 years I got and see what we could do to
No,
help
but
the
is there
city.
any on-the-ground discussion of moving it to 4 years?
Not that I've heard. I think there's
It's
some,
hard for the incumbent or the mayor-elect or the incumbent to start advocating for that position because it
Correct.
feels self-serving.
No, self-serving.
So you've got to stay completely clear
Neutral.
of that.
Yep.
But if others began that conversation, would you support the concept?
I would rather see a 4-year term, and I don't even have a problem with term limits. I really don't. 2 terms, there's nothing wrong with that. I term limited myself when I was on the vocational school committee. 3 terms, that's 6 years, that's enough. I like people to have fresh starts and move over.
But when you're running every 2 years, you're really running
all
every
the
year.
time, every
You're
time.
almost running all the time.
All the time.
Hard to get traction?
Not really, because when you're running, you're also talking to people. You're out meeting the people in the community. I mean, my schedule is just crazy. I was at 4 or 5 events on Saturday. I was at 3 or 4 events yesterday. I keep moving, and that's what we're doing. The parade yesterday. We had the ceremony. We had a breakfast. I keep going. I try, but you get to meet people, and I don't mind it. I like campaigning.
Are there pivotal decisions that need to happen in the next couple of months?
There's some personnel decisions in the government center. There's some policy decisions. One of the things we're doing with our transition team is we're putting in one of the units. You know, they usually do the economic development, housing, opioids. We're going to have one on public integrity, which I'm really going to focus on as they come together. I want to make sure we have the right ethics officer in government center. I want to make sure all of our employees are trained up on what ethical behavior is. I think if we can start to show people that we're moving in the right direction, we can instill some confidence in what's going on down there. Right now, it's very cynical.
You don't have one of those now?
I think we have the perfunctory, sign the checklist, you read the ethics thing. But I think if we highlight it a little more, delve a little more deeply into it with some concrete examples, and again, assign an ethics officer. I'm thinking maybe in the Corporation Counsel's office that you report to when you see or hear of unethical behavior.
Is that a full-time thing, an ethics officer?
No. It'll be one of the assigned duties of one of the Corporation Councils.
Gotcha.
We're not gonna hire someone for that. No.
It's kind of unfortunate that you have to teach people right and wrong.
I did it 20 years in a high school. Now they're young, and I understand, but it doesn't. It transitions well to the adults too, because sometimes things are done a certain way, and people just think it's the way to do it. And then when they find out later, hey, you can't do that, they're like, I didn't know. And they may be sincere, but we have to let people know there's the right way and there's the wrong way, and we got to kind of move away from sometimes the Fall River way.
All right, when we come back, we'll ask about what a school administrative career does to help running a city. Stay with us. Well, it's not like you don't deal with conflict resolution when you're a school administrator for all the years that you were in Fall River. It's got to help.
Oh, absolutely.
Heck, half the doggone city hall are probably your former students, right?
A great number of them. It's fun because you go around and see them in a different role. They're clerks, they're lawyers, they're whatever they are. They're out in the community, and you run into them. It's great, and it really is positive. And that's what you do as an administrator in a school. You conflict resolution around the clock. Parents, teachers, ancillary staff, students, you're always on the go.
What did you learn as, by the way, you were principal for, vice principal for
Durfee High
how
School.
long?
Oh, at least, I don't know, 15, 20 years.
And the vice principal really gets his hands dirtier.
Correct.
Right? The principal, sees the big picture, right? But you're in there, mano a mano, woman a woman, whatever it is, with the kids.
Yep.
You must have stories that you can regale with forever.
Absolutely. It's just...
But you were just showing me one of them. What was this thing about the stapler? It's a funny story.
The girl...
No names,
The girl wrote to me about how, she was so happy that I became mayor.
Just a citizen?
Just a citizen. She lives in Providence now, and she said, and I wanted to tell you, I'm sorry I threw that stapler in your office. And it's so funny because when I read the thing, I was like, threw a stapler. I have no memory of it. It's not like it was one of those, come to Jesus moments where someone whistled a stapler by your head, but you're like, what the heck? I don't even remember those things because there was a lot of times you were in there rolling around with them in the middle of battles.
Yeah, it does go to show you, forget the mayoralty, an education career is going to be pretty profound because once you put in your years, you'll often be reminded by your students about things that you probably do not remember, but they remember vividly. The impact that a teacher or administrator has on students is everlasting, right?
It's eternal. They come up to me. Remember the time you got me the job, Mr. Coogan, at the bank? Remember the time you gave me a ride that time? And you're like, God help me. You don't remember it. You do some of them, but you don't remember it all.
How does that advise you going into the mayoralty? Because the dynamic may not be duplicate, but in many ways it's the same.
Right. When you deal with teenagers all the time, you have to learn patience. Because when you start hearing some of the things coming out of their mouth, you want to jump. But you can't jump. You got to wait till they finish. You can't interrupt them. They're a great, great class of people because they are definitely the smartest people in the country, and they,
as far as they're concerned.
The parents will come in and they'll say, you do understand, Mrs. York, that if I gave Dan a scalpel, he'd do open heart surgery right now because he saw it on YouTube, and he would dive right in for $300, and they would. So you try to explain this to people because there's nothing they don't know. Right. And you just got to tell them you love them and calm down and move with them, and they'll be fine.
What's your best asset going in?
It's probably my training, really. I think it's the skills you develop when you're working in a school like that all the time, whether it's patience, the ability to listen. I think the older I get, the more I listen before I jump.
What's your worst liability? What's the thing you got to improve on most?
It's patience. You want to get stuff done. Oh, we're going to fix a road. Okay, when is it going to be Wednesday?
Patience is your asset and your liability?
Right, it's both. Because you want to move. If we're going to try to move a city along, you want to have a series of accomplishments. But it's not Paul Coogan. It's a group of people that are going to do these things. But if you want to get them done right away, there's going to be a pace to it, and we'll get to it. It's just something I want to make sure I'm better at than snapping at someone, because I think it should have been done Wednesday.
With all the difficulty, Fall River has been known as what that's bothered you?
A place where all politics is infected. Because so many times on Facebook, oh, everyone does this, everyone does this, everyone does this. That's not true. That is not true. But what happens is if you repeat something long enough, then they think it is true, and it's not true.
And in a couple or 4 or 6 years, however long you go at this thing, what do you want it to be known for?
Stability, honesty, people having a say at the table about how to run a city. We want to engage people on all levels, and that's what I believe we're going to do. I think we have a meeting this afternoon with the neighborhood leaders. We're going to talk to them about what their concerns are, and we're going to start to pull people back in that may have felt splintered.
It sounds like you're going to have fun.
We're going to have a lot of fun. I definitely think that. You can tell.
Your golf game may not improve.
The golf game's gone, though. I'm going from a 12 to a 30 in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, but Trump plays all the time.
I don't know how he does it, because I tried playing once during the campaign. You got to go, you got to go. By the 9th hole, the phone had gone off so many times, I told the guys, I'm done, I'm sorry. Play as a threesome down the back, and I was gone.
If we get a chance to play, you're still at 12. Don't be arguing for all those shots. Congratulations.
Okay, thank you.
Best of luck to you.
Thank you very much.
And we'll stay in touch on the issues.
I'm around.
Paul Coogan, mayor-elect in Fall River. Final word next. With the mayors having a problem and suing the state, we'll follow that tomorrow and a whole lot more. Thanks for tuning in. See you on the radio at 3 on WPRO. Good night.